All right, let's jump right into this explainer. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine you're an African male lion. You're probably picturing yourself basking in that golden hour sun, right? An undisputed monarch surveying this vast, beautiful kingdom. Well, you can go ahead and open your eyes now because today we're throwing out the Disney fairy tales. We're looking at the hard biological data, stuff from decades of field research, GPS tracking, and genetic studies. We're going to plunge right into the harsh, completely unromanticized reality of what it actually means to be a male African lion. So, you think you're ready to rule the savannah? You're probably banking on that whole king of the jungle myth, expecting a life of majestic roars, absolute authority, and endless feasts delivered right to your paws. But here's the harsh reality check. Biology really doesn't care about royalty. Your life isn't going to be some glorious reign. It's going to be a grueling, high stakes game of survival, and the odds are overwhelmingly stacked against you from literally day one. Let me just hit you with some blunt force data right out of the gate. 35%. That is the percentage of male lions who die within their very first year of losing a pride. And it's mostly due to severe combat injuries. We're talking deep lacerations, broken bones, untreatable infections. Basically, if you fall from power, you don't get some quiet retirement. You get a death sentence. So yeah, think again. Your life is about to be an absolute nightmare. Over the course of this explainer, we're going to walk through your own life cycle, step by step, relying on the exact data researchers have pulled from places like the Serengeti, the Okavango Delta, and Hwange National Park. So buckle up, because the math, it is definitely not in your favor. Let's start right at the beginning with our first phase. Born helpless, hunted early. Because you definitely don't burst into the world roaring. You're actually born blind, deaf, and essentially crawling on the ground like a worm. You weigh practically nothing. So, on one hand, you're incredibly fragile for those first few weeks of life. But on the other hand, your mother, who is your absolute only lifeline, has to leave you hidden in the grass so she can go hunt. And every single time she leaves, you aren't some prince in waiting. You are literally just an easy, completely defenseless snack for a passing hyena, a leopard, or even wild dogs. Now, if you miraculously survive those first few weeks, your mom will eventually bring you out to join what biologists call a creche. Now, you might hear that and think, oh, a cute little lion nursery where mothers bond. No, totally wrong. A creche is a desperate, highly calculated security measure. It's a defensive formation, usually 4 to 5 mothers, and they aren't teaming up to optimize their hunting. In fact, data actually shows mothers in a creche suffer from a lower food intake. They literally choose to endure hunger just so they can pool their physical strength to stop incoming nomadic male lions from slaughtering you. And why is that defense so absolutely crucial? Well, it comes down to this really grim statistic: 25%. A full quarter of all lion cub deaths are the direct result of infanticide by incoming rival males. Let that sink in. If your father loses a fight, you lose your life. Which brings us to the next horrific chapter of your life: the trauma of pride takeovers. See, there's actually a biological playbook that rival males use, and it's been perfectly honed by evolution. Step one, they just wait on the periphery for your father and uncles to get old and weaken. Step two, they form their own younger, much stronger rival coalition. Step three, they launch a completely brutal, violent takeover to either kill or expel your leaders. And finally, step four, like we just talked about, they systematically eliminate the cubs so they can start their own bloodline. Your entire world, poof, collapses in a single afternoon of dust and blood. Now, let's say you somehow survive the takeover. Maybe you were just old enough or fast enough to hide. What exactly is your reward for that? Well, by the time you hit puberty, so around 18 to 24 months old, those new males are going to look at you and see a threat. So you'll be violently chased out of the absolute only home you've ever known. You are now officially an exile. And that ushers in the most grueling, miserable phase of your existence: the struggle of nomadic exile. Let's look at the math on this again. The moment you're kicked out of the pride, you lose the incredible coordinated hunting strategies of the lionesses. As a solitary, super inexperienced subadult, your hunting success rate just completely plummets to less than 15%. That means you are missing your target 8.5 times out of 10. You are going to be chronically starving. And the crucial thing here is how this completely breaks down your physical body. Look at this contrast. When you were a cub back in the pride, the adults rested for like 20 hours a day to conserve energy. But now, as a starving nomad, You're forced into this calorie-burning, exhausting death march. You're working 30 to 40 kilometers a day, completely under the cover of darkness, just trying to scavenge whatever scraps you can find, while desperately trying to avoid the territories of fully grown, lethal adult males. We actually have the GPS tracking data of transient males to back this up, and it reveals what's called hyperdirectional movement. Look at that pattern on the screen. That means you aren't just casually exploring the savannah. You are moving in a rigid, straight line as fast as you possibly can. You're not effectively hunting. You're frantically passing through hostile territory, absolutely terrified of bumping into a resident king who will kill you on sight. And this physical toll gets even crazier when we look at the net displacement data. Solitary transient males are forced to travel massively farther than those moving in groups. Think about it. If you're out there wandering completely alone, the physical toll on your body is astronomical. You are literally burning calories you don't even have just to stay alive for one more day. But let's say you endure all of that. Eventually, you grow into your full adult body, and it's time for the next phase, the violent rise to power. Before you go charging into battle, though, we really need to look at these odds. If you try to take over a pride completely by yourself, your probability of success is a dismal 10%. Now, if you manage to find a brother or maybe another exile out there to form a pair, it bumps up to 25%. But if you want a real fighting chance, like a 60% probability, you absolutely must forge a coalition of 3 or more males. Mathematically speaking, you are doomed to die a nomad unless you team up. And get this, recent studies out of Botswana reveal an incredibly long timeline to actually achieve this. You won't successfully take over a pride until you are, on average, 7.8 years old. I mean, really think about that. That's almost 8 years of your life spent as a terrified, starving wanderer before you finally win a battle and claim a throne. And the second you do win, the clock just starts ticking all over again. 110 days. That is the exact gestation period before the lionesses give birth to your cubs. And the very moment they're born, you are locked right back into the exact same desperate cycle your father was in. You have to patrol constantly, fight off intruders, and protect those cubs from the exact same kind of hungry nomadic exiles you were just a few months ago. You're finally the king. But your reign is going to be incredibly short-lived, bringing us to the final reality of your life, the inevitable, brutal decline. Because eventually, and usually this happens within just a few years, a younger, much stronger coalition is going to show up on your horizon, and they're going to do to you exactly what you did to the previous leaders. When you're finally defeated, researchers have documented this fascinating but tragic phenomenon in ousted males called social depression. Basically, your testosterone plummets, your cortisol spikes, you exhibit this profound psychological withdrawal, spending up to 20 hours a day in total sedentary isolation. You've lost your family, your territory, your status, the whole shebang. And without the pride, your body immediately starts to fail you. You're simply too old and beaten up from years of fighting to hunt properly on your own. Meaning, you will lose up to 15% of your total body weight in just the first few weeks of your exile. It's such a stark contrast. Let's look at this pathetic final picture of your life. Just a few weeks ago, you were feasting on prime wild beast, right? Eating first while the rest of the pride just waited their turn. But now, you're a starving scavenger. You're forced to eat rotting scraps. And because you're weak and alone, you are routinely chased off your own meager meals by the exact same hyenas you used to terrorize. You've gone from being the apex predator to just another victim of the savannah. So, after looking at the hard math, the brutal GPS tracking data, and the devastating biological realities we just covered, I really have to ask you one final question. Do you still want to be king of the jungle? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. The natural world is absolutely fascinating, but as you can see, it is rarely a fairy tale. Keep exploring the data, and I'll catch you next time.